great franchises, or really good franchises, are usually not discussed here as we lead up to the draft. But, you know, you look at Kansas City with Rashee Rice. I don't know what's going to happen with that situation. Their leading wide receiver. Do they need a receiver? Do you think they'll come up? And then Buffalo, moving on from Stephon Diggs, do you think Buffalo or Kansas City, both of those teams, really good teams, will come up and get into this wide receiver party?
They may not have to come up. I mean, that's how deep this wide receiver draft is. And okay, so I talked to a couple of different people yesterday, one of which was doing cross checks on quarterbacks for this draft. And I said, what do you think? Like 5? And he's like, I can almost guarantee 5 quarterbacks are going in the first. I said 6. He said 6 is a real possibility. And he said, if not
I would take the over on 5.5. Yeah.
He's like 6 is definitely a real possibility in terms of teams trading up at the end of the first to get in for, let's say it's like a Bo Nix, right? And for the 5th-year option. So if that happens, you're talking about offensive linemen sliding. You're talking about a handful of the top defensive players, you know, are going to trickle down the board. You're talking about other wide receivers that are going to slide. And the one guy who I think is really interesting, Ladd McConkey, so out of Georgia. When we did the All Juice team this year, and we talked to, I talked to so many different executives, and Ladd McConkey kept coming up in all these conversations. I had guys saying, like, look, when you look at his tape, granted, there's a little bit of an injury concern there, but if Brock Bowers didn't exist at Georgia, Ladd McConkey would have put up huge numbers because all this easy stuff went to Brock Bowers inside the first 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. He's like McConkey didn't get any of the simple stuff. He got all of the downfield stuff, the stuff that when I watched, I'm going, that's an NFL route. That's an NFL route. That's an NFL skill that I'm seeing on the table. So you had a number of guys who are like, and I think the question, like when we're talking about McConkey, these teams are like wondering if he's going to be there in like the middle of the second. And I'm like, there's so many people who like this guy. I don't think he's going to make it to the middle of the second. Like, I think there's a very real chance someone just jumps the gun and says, we're going to get him now. Like, we're not going to wait around. We're either going to move up for him. So I think McConkey in either Buffalo or, with the Kansas City Chiefs is a guy that could surprise maybe at the end of the first round. But there's going to be, Adonai Mitchell is a guy who might go a little later than people think, especially in light of some of the recent reports. And that, I think there's some concern there about coachability, like how availability in practices, things like that. Xavier Worthy is another guy who, look, I know he ran the 4.21 40. That's great. But, I think a lot of people see him as more especially at, 170-ish, maybe gets to 175-ish in the NFL. It's more straight line speed. It's not like Tank Dell, who comes in the 170s, but is like, he's a route guy. It's not all verticals. But I could see both of those teams actually addressing a wide receiver late, or I could see them being a potentially trade back team for another team that wants to get up and get a quarterback.
Hey, thank you for watching Brother from Another. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, go ahead and do that now. Don't forget, you can catch us 3 to 4 weekdays on PeacockTV.com and on Sirius XM Channel 85.